Tonight we're picking up with the second presentation, Antichrist at War. Look at 1 John 2. My little children, it is the last hour. And as you have heard that the Antichrist is coming, even now many Antichrists have come, by which we know that it is the last hour. They went out from us, but they were not of us. For if they had been of us, they would have continued with us. A couple of things. Number one, more than one to watch for. Number two, Antichrists tend to come from having a previous relationship with Christ. And they're drifting away in some form, putting themselves in his place. Actually, the word Antichrist from the Greek anti means in place of or against. You can claim to be Christ, you're Antichrist. You can claim to be against Christ, you're Antichrist. Somebody says, well, isn't the beast or the little horn Antichrist? Well, it's one of them. But it's not the only one. Now, what have we learned so far in Daniel? You have a series of kings of the north. And from Daniel's time to the end of sin and suffering, you go through all these. And we notice that there's a Greek and a Roman time. And during that divided Greek and during the divided Roman time, we have a king of the south that comes into play as well. We found out that Jesus is the Prince of the Covenant. And that's during the time of Rome. That's where we ended it. But in Daniel 2, it goes from legs of iron, Rome, into feet of iron and clay. Interesting. Iron would be a continuation of some way of Rome, but clay, Jeremiah 18, clay represents God's people. So at some point, you're going to be looking at a combination of Rome, political Rome, and Christianity. What powers or powers follow Rome? Historically, as I mentioned, it splits, just like Greek does in north and south. Greek splits 4 ways, but you have a Seleucid north, Ptolemy south. When Rome splits, it splits 10 or more ways, but you end up with a north and south as well. Islam strikes from the south, Christianity strikes back from the north, and Jerusalem gets caught in the middle. Now we're going to take a look at that. Daniel 11 says there are 3 conflicts between the king of the north and the king of the south after the fall of Rome. We find all 3 of them mentioned in one verse, actually. And they're explained over a period of time, but in one verse it mentions all 3. It says, at the appointed time he shall return. That's the king of the north will return and go towards the south. He's headed south again. But it shall not be like the former, the first one, or the latter one, the third one. You've got 3. The appointed is the second one. Former, the Crusades. Appointed actually is the Ottoman Empire. Third is time of the end in verse 40 and following. So we have 3 conflicts. Patrick Buchanan said this back in 2011. As for a climatic conflict between a once Christian West and an Islamic world that is growing in numbers and advancing inexorably into Europe for the 3rd time in 14 centuries. Whoa. Muslims and Christians agree this is the 3rd round of conflict. Good news. The Bible says there are only 3 rounds of conflict. We're in the 3rd and final. It seems like there's never going to be an end to this thing, doesn't it? But there will be.